Hey guys, it's joke time here, and I'm with Bunsen again.
Hey guys.
And today we're going to be doing a little discussion about the card contest winners and I guess how they will play into the meta or just competitive scene. Want to start with Truant?
Okay, yeah. So Truant is was the first limited edition card for set 4 that was revealed. And it's a 6-star Gaios creature with 360 power and 170 health with a rather interesting ability where when your opponent kills this creature, you can change the power and health of one zoned 3-star Gaios creature to the same stats as Truant until it is killed, being 360, 170. Um, Shulk, what are your opinions on this card?
I think this card is kind of only good for specific situations, though I do see a use in Night Jungle that maybe could make Truant a one of in Night Jungle decks, which is you play Truant and have a Togma out and kind of have those trees to protect Togma, and um, hopefully like they would kill Truant and they wouldn't be able to kill Togma because that would just be annoying. And Truant has that high power to hopefully slap through anything that goes for Togma. And so Truant dies, Togma gains the ability, and then he's pretty powerful for 3 star. Okay, Bunsen, what are your thoughts of Truant?
I do think that's a rather interesting application with Togma. In my personal opinion, though, I just think that it's kind of underwhelming outside of that application. If you look at its stat line, 360, 170 gives me three-headed Robact vibes, where it's a high power, low health creature. And in general, you don't want that out of a big creature. 6-star, it's more tolerable, but the sum of its stats is really only you're basically paying 6 stars for a 5-star stat line. So you have to ask yourself, is that effect worth the 1 star? And when I think about it, the thing is that most 3 stars in the game do not have over 170 health. Like 170 health is right around it's above average for a 3-star creature, but it's by no means wildly different. So it doesn't really increase the survivability of the 3-star Gaios creature. So as long as your opponent has two creatures to attack with, it won't really change how you trade with your creatures. And given that Truant's ability goes off when it is killed, this means that your opponent will always be able to react to its ability first. Like you may not even be able to get to use its ability. Um, you add on top of that its rather inflexible nature in that you have to specifically target 3-star Gaios creatures. And outside of Togma and Ozokai, I can't really think of another application for it. It might be a potential one of, maybe I'm underrating it. But overall, I think that it's an effect that your opponent can certainly react to. Yeah, that's all I really have to say on the card.
So we'll move on to the next card, which is Aromatic Scent. I'll start off this one. So Aromatic Scent, the clear reason that Zack added this was for point decks, but I don't really see much use outside of that. Uh, I mean, it's 5 turns, so you could probably find a creature to wall out with it, but I don't think it would be that useful outside of point decks. And point decks are more of like a casual, fun deck rather than competitive. But Bunsen, what are your thoughts on Aromatic Scent?
I personally think that it's okay as is, or maybe not okay as is. It's an okay card all around, like not too broken, not too weak. You have to ask yourself, how many points do you have to gain before it's worthwhile? I'd say it'd have to be in the 2 to 3 range. Otherwise, you might as well have an extra creature. But that's also the problem. You wouldn't run this in a pure point or burn deck because you have to have bulky enough creatures in order for it to live long enough so you can actually use it. So you wouldn't see it in an aggro deck. It's actually, ironically, although it may be intended for more burn style decks, I think it does better in control decks where you can put up floodgates and you can put bulkier creatures on the board. It's also particularly problematic with cards such as or cards that don't die immediately. So cards like Atatrox, Togma, Trollogram, Bullwarder. Um, think of like say if you had this is a common board state with many control decks is Stekataka with Bullwarder up. Even without Bullwarder, Stekataka is a cheap creature that can get very bulky. Um, it, and if you were to slap a aromatic scent on it, you can use the card. You can generate a lot of points from it, and your opponent is essentially forced to either use hard removal or use like their ace cards in order to deal with it. So I think its turn limit should be reduced by 1 because more often than not, you're not going to get 5 procs off of it, but I think getting 5 activations or getting 5 points from the card is a little bit too much and incentivizes stally play a lot more. And it's a natural stall breaker. It breaks the stall sooner. So the control player actually has to have a follow up to the card, or needs to follow up more quickly, in my opinion.
Yeah,
That's all I have to say on the card.
at the current state of the game, I'd say this card could be problematic, but I assume with set 4 and like kind of the pushes for attachment removal and and the like, I am hopeful that this won't be an issue. Like if this card was in set 3, I think there is ways this card could be problematic, but I don't see it being a problem assuming that we do get good creatures to remove attachments like this card. Next, we're going to move on to Hammerhead Sharkling. Why don't you start this time, Bunsen?
Okay, so Hammerhead Sharkling's an interesting card for the. It's a 120 power, 50 health. Its effect: if this creature is killed by the planet card Polysium, so that is using the Polysium effect of killing. I believe it's 2 Polysium creatures on your planet whose stars equal 6 or less than 6, one of the two. You can add 1 killed 2-star Polysium creature to your hand that wasn't killed that turn. So overall, I think the card certainly supports what a traditional Polysium plan would go for, where you use a lot of small creatures to bring out an ace card like Cranshawn or something of the like. But in my opinion, I think this card reveals the problem currently with Polysium and that its design, in that its effect is extremely niche outside of Duple Drop. Um, and more often than not, you're going to want to use this card to just bring back Duple Drop. So it's debatable how applicable this card is. I think more support has to be given to Polysium, not in the form of like strong Polysium cards, but cards that incentivize you to even use the Polysium effect. Um, yeah, that's all I have to say. Otherwise, it's actually a fairly good stat distribution for a 2-star card. 120 health gets over quite a few things. It basically kills the best. It beats over what is debatably the best 2-star in the game stat wise in Bubbo. Um, it does die to things like Thorgabork, but 2-star cards die to small to other small or dies to anything really in the first place. So that's not really a big deal. That's all I have to say about it. What's your opinion on the card, Shulk?
Um, Hammerhead Sharkling. I do like the design of the card, but I don't see it being a huge factor in Palladium. I don't think it's going to push forward the planet at all. Like I see it maybe like I assume it's going to be used. I think the ability's pretty good, but I don't think it's anything that's going to really alter Palladium. I think it's just going to make Palladium a bit more consistent and be able to rack up star advantage easier. But other than that, I don't think it's gonna really benefit Palladium too much. But I mean, of course, you don't always need like super overpowered cards to be every contest winner. Um, I think the way the card is right now is perfectly fine.
I think the design in of itself, other than the possible recursion of duple drop, um, which might be problematic. But other than that, I think design wise, it's a great card. Hammerhead sharks, I don't think had really been explored. I think the artwork is great. I just have more of a problem with it in the grand scheme of how Polysium functions.
We'll move on now, but shoutouts to the real deal for designing that card.
Nice design.
Our next card is Dark Market Alchemist. The card that I said I'm in love with in the comment section of Zack's video.
Why do you love the card so much, Shulk?
Um, I like the idea of the card. I find that a lot of cards or creatures that gain power and health or like altered power and health to be pretty annoying, like Gomp,
Taka.
Stekataka.
Heat is another big one.
Yes, yes. I like the ability to just slap him down, kill a creature, and still have a respectable power and health. His power and health unfortunately falls 20 below like the Pelfam kill threshold, which is unfortunate. I do also like the 270 health, which stops almost all 4-star creatures except for Pyronite
Iron Knight,
and De and Torben Chariot. Other than that,
Luminarion, or whatever the Roka 4-star is also a possibility.
yes, that is
Um,
true. I mean, this card, it's going to be great sideboard potential. I don't think we'll see much of it in main deck, especially because it's a no planet creature. Uh, but I do think people run it for the Barrow matchup or Gomp, maybe even Night Jungle. But I do think this card does have some versatility on the sideboard. Okay, Bunsen, what are your thoughts on Dark Market Alchemist?
I agree with most of your points. In that it is fairly niche of an effect. I overall don't. I agree with you in that its stat distribution does leave something to be desired. In my opinion, I'd rather a card like this have a more skewed power, or skewed more towards power rather than health, because if you do use it to kill a creature that would have an increased power or health, that's typically going to be a big creature, and as a result, or a card that they invested a lot into the opponent, whether it be multiple cards or multiple stars. So the opponent is going to have less stars overall to play with afterwards. So, in my opinion, I think it should have 310 power, with the consequence of having its health lowered, even if that means, it gets struck down by the 4-star Shios cards. I think a stat distribution like a 310 power, 250 health, or a 320 power, 250 health would make the card a lot more well rounded while still giving it more counterplay. I just think the fact that it's a 7-star creature with a 6-star stat line, even a below average 6-star stat line, with an effect that may not even be used in many matchups is a little bit iffy, in my opinion. That's all I really
Yeah,
have to say about it. I think the design overall is pretty good. More Eternity Amulet hate is uh, appreciated.
yeah. I agree that um, 320 or 310 power would give the card more viability, but I don't necessarily think that that's a good idea to add. The card, I think, no matter what power it gets, like the current or a higher one that gets over Pelfam, is going to really make the card be played in main decks. Um, in the current state of the game, that could change if we see more cards that rely on like stat changes, but I don't think it'd have a huge effect. And I think right now it's just better to be balanced power and health. I think it's best suited as a sideboard card. Heading into our last card, we have Twin Mountains. Bunsen, how about you start us off?
Yeah, so Twin Mountains is a pretty interesting card. I don't know if I have a problem with it at the current moment because it's kind of like a win more card that's very RNG heavy in many instances, unless you're playing a deck that aims to draw out fairly quickly, like say Pure Scindian that uses the Engelian draw engine. Um, that can help that deck in particular because that deck typically has to run a lot of low stat Scindian creatures. So if you throw Twin Mountains on, say, what's a card that that deck runs that you wouldn't normally run? Maybe like Kaleidoscope Warriors.
Yeah,
You
maybe.
pass that barrier. I think of others, but that is certainly the first viable instance I thought of. I just think it's a ability restriction in that it has to be handed rather than it can't just also be on the field is a little bit annoying. Thing like Ficaritis, the set 3 limited edition card. For those that don't remember, that was a 5-star Gaios creature where if you killed an opposing creature, you could play it or you could free play it from your galaxy. I think if Twin Mountains was able to, if it kind of had like an Ozo Titan effect where it could be revealed from your hand or your board or your planet, as in like zoned, then it would increase in viability. Um, Other than that, I'm a little worried about how it can be a bit swingy, how it can be a bit RNG dependent. It can be particularly problematic on big creatures if you get past that 500 health threshold. Um, if you throw this on Purgator in the early game, you're essentially screwed. Um, yeah, that's all I really have to say about it.
Okay. So I looked at this card and instantly thought of potential combos for it. Now I don't see this card being viable at all. I don't see it being used. Um, I think it's just way too difficult to like. Yeah, it's too RNG based. Like, you can't count on just happening to having like one card on the field, one in your hands, same one to be able to play it, and it only gives you 150, 150, which is decent, but like I don't think that's enough for the requirement. But anyway, I figured out this card does have some potential combos. The first of which is Forces of Justice. Forces of Justice, like the way it'd have to go is you have the card on the field. and then I would assume you would use Force of Justice, pull out the same creature, and then slap on the Twin Mountains to get the extra 150 power and health. But I'm not sure if that's necessarily worth it to do. It is a potential combo. Another one is Weatherman Hailstorm. So you can put that on a Sunshine or Snowflake. Weatherman Hailstorm says attach only to a Weatherman creature. If it would be killed, kill this card instead. When this attached card is killed, add one Galaxy Weather Machine or Weatherman to your hand, which has 1 or 2 stars. So basically, if you have a Sunshine or Snowflake, um, once Weatherman Hailstorm dies, you can search out one of those, and then you'll have the combo ready. But I'm not sure if that's really going to be useful at all for Weatherman. I think it's another kind of like not useless, but I guess weird potential combo that somebody may run, but I don't think people are going to opt to go that direction competitively. Another potential combo I saw, this is the final one, was with Dupab. So, Dupab, the card he brings out is flexible, and say you're running like a slush machine deck, um, you're able to just like bring out those specific cards. And say you have like a Bagabuga that's dead, and you have a Bagabuga in your hand that you either drew or got from like maybe slush machine or something. Um, you could potentially attack for 12 points in 1 turn if you bring out a Bagabuga using Dupab, attach Blaze Elixir, attach Starship XXS, and then if you put a Twin Mountains on it, that makes it go from 400 power, which is 4 points per attack, so that'd be 8 total, to 550 power, which is just enough to reach 6 points per attack. So you could potentially attack for 12 points in 1 turn, which which is a lot. And I think maybe we'll see it in that deck. But I think all these combos are kind of like, are they really worth it? Probably not. But I would like to see some creativity using this card. But I don't think it's that competitive. Okay, well,
Agree overall.
yep, that wraps up the video. Thank you guys for watching. Bunsen, any last words?
Not really. I'm excited for these cards, particularly uh Dark Market Alchemist and an aromatic scent, and how I think those have the best chances of being viable. Truant a little bit less so. Hopefully Sharkling can find its home in a set 4 Polysium deck. Hopefully Polysium gets more support so that can be played. um I just think the cards overall are pretty interesting, and they're pretty unique designs overall. I like the art for them especially.
Yeah, with 800 cards, Zack definitely picked the ones with the best combination of like art and card creativity. I'm satisfied with the cards this go around. Okay, well, thank you guys for watching, and goodbye.